Yeah, I just got back from going to a conference today up at Filoli. So it got me thinking about the topic that I would like to do for this video, and one of the subjects that was talked about quite a bit was leaning trees, the strength of a leaning tree and how that contributes to a potential failure. And a lot of it was talking about the giant redwoods, the huge giant sequoias. So the topic that I'm going to talk about is leaning trunks, and I want to show a couple of examples. I'll start off with a small one at one of my jobs, and then I'm going to take you to Filoli. If you don't know what Filoli is, F-I-L-O-L-I Gardens in Woodside, California. It's an amazing place. Okay, the first tree I'd like to talk about is this aristocrat pear. It's a flowering pear, and the tree has a very significant lean to it. It's been like this for over 50 years. And as you can see from this photo here, it's completely one-sided. So my comment to the owner of this tree was, the tree is going to end up uprooting. If we get a saturated soil situation, or if it gets too heavy, it has no future. It's reached a point in its life where it must either be supported or lightened up to make it as safe as possible. So I talked him into putting a prop in this tree, as well as doing a little bit of end weight reduction. So I'll show you the process of what I did. I had to find a spot that was best to put a prop in there, and I put this flat rock in here, and you can see this area was the most logical place for me to put a 4x4 prop. And as you can see, it's close to the foundation, so the roots that should be extending straight out are going sideways, which is not as strong. The problem is that when it fully leaves out, you get these little tiny ornamental pears on there, and it can be extremely heavy. And I pushed on it, and it was very, very heavy right now. Frankly, I'm surprised it's still standing. So I convinced him that that was the logical way to save his tree. So there's the prop. I put that in there, and I also took two big cuts off of here, one on the right side and one on the left side. You can't really see it. There's that flat piece up on the top there. There it is. That was a fairly large end weight reduction. So I took a bit of weight off of both sides to balance it out. So they still retain the character of this tree without losing it. Filoli. Let's go to Filoli. This was an interesting slide. That's a sweater around a tree. So every year I go to a conference at Filoli, and it's really one of the best ones on the West Coast. I really appreciate it. You get a couple hundred people that go to it every year. And at lunchtime I took a walk. I went out, and this is a magnificent couple of trees. These are called camper down elms. They're a very rare tree. You don't see them very often. They're very irregular shaped tree. The branches they kind of roll in and out. And this tree, I have a video on this. See if I can find it, I'll post it. But you can see that it was severed all the way around. Both trees were cut with a chainsaw all the way around. And there's a long story behind a disgruntled employee from over 20 years ago that tried to kill these trees. This is the other one, and they've got this one with lights in it. I would love to see what this place looks like at night, because a lot of the trees were lit up. It's just a magnificent location. I took Lucy and Kaylin and Jorge out there with me for the day, and I think they enjoyed it. It was a rather gloomy morning. It had been raining all morning, so the lighting isn't great out here. But yeah, it's starting to get a little bit of sun there. Oh, you'll like this. These are Platanus acerfolia, sycamores. Interesting how they have different names. But over here we call them sycamore trees. This place is magnificent. I'm not sure how large it is. You can look it up. It's called F-I-L-O-L-I, Filoli. The gardens are just truly remarkable. And there's all these little hidden passageways, and you go through one passageway and you'll come to a completely different garden. And I really enjoyed walking around this place, and it's old, so old. which tells you that a lot of these trees that are planted in are ancient, and they've been maintained for a long, long time. I mean, look at those boxwood hedges. Look, isn't that gorgeous? I'm so impressed. The whole place it's just, you know, for me, I would love to go back there in the springtime when all the flowers are out. But this place is just truly, truly remarkable. And there's some enormous trees out there, the huge old oak trees. Now, at the end of this video, I'm going to be talking about yet another leaning tree that is much more significant than the pear that I was talking about. But with this being the subject of leaning trees, I wanted to talk a little bit about the leverage and the imbalance that a leaning tree can have. Now, this one's pretty much straight up and down, but it's got a lot of ornamental stuff on it. And then there's a lot of bonsais out there. I mean, this is an ancient old bonsai. Look at this wisteria. This place just blows my mind. This was a really interesting tree. You can see that all the old oak trees have had a lot of work on them. And if you can see closely, you can see brickwork in there. It's concrete that's shaped like little bricks. And there was a big through rod in there, and you know, lots and lots of cavities. So there's a lot of work that really needs to be done. It looks like the big trees have been neglected for a long time. So after the conference, I went for another walk, and thankfully the sun came out. So some of these images now are going to be a little bit brighter and a little bit more pronounced. They've got a beautiful pond, and everything has been planted. Everything is so pristine out here. It's just north of Woodside off of 280. Take Edgewood Road out to Canada Road, and you turn right, and it's open to the public. Check to see the hours, but it is well worth seeing. And some of the old trees in here, just like I said before, they just are amazing. I love this reflection in this pool out here. This is not a swimming pool. This is just a reflection pond. And the sun kind of peeked behind some clouds out here, so it's getting near the end of the day, but I still continued my wanders. Oh, these are neat trees. Have you ever heard of a hinoki cypress? There's a couple of hinoki cypress, and these trees are probably over 100 years old. They're very, very slow-growing species of cypress, and they're pretty rare in our area. You don't see them too often. There's the backside of that big brick mansion. Look at that place. You can take tours of the inside of it, and it's well worth seeing. And here's some of the open space. I have no idea how many acres are on this place. Like I said, you can look it up, but it's vast. This tree was also quite prominent. A lot of trees have lots of cables in them too, and you can see lots of work that you can see where the ancient cuts are now big wounds and big decay pockets. Look at all the cables in that one. I didn't count them, but there's probably at least a dozen or more cables on that tree. It's all held together. Now this tree is the one that I wanted to talk about. It's a completely one-sided tree. And the trunk starts out and goes up, but it does have a lean to it. And the whole thing, you can see that big branch that heads way out over the side there. It's very much a one-sided tree. There's virtually no branches on the backside, so all the weight is hanging out over on this side. And that one huge branch over on the right has a cable on it that goes up to the center trunk. And I want you to look at that center trunk. Can you see that crack? That crack really surprised me. So the cable, you can't see it very well in the picture, is going from that centerpiece all the way out to that limb that is much, much heavier than the centerpiece. So as I see it, that limb is now pulling on the center of the tree, exerting a lot of pressure on it, and it will cause it to break. And when that centerpiece does break, the one that's cracked, it's going to take out not only the big branch in the top, but it's going to take out the leaning branch and the one to the side. So it's going to be sort of a domino explosion of branches. I've seen this happen before, and I expect it to happen now. Lots of wildlife too.